Good morning. My name is Brandon McIntyre, and I'm fortunate enough to have been counted as one of Dorothy's 5 grandchildren. Our family is incredibly grateful for the love, support, and encouragement that's been offered as we've navigated through this difficult season. Thank you for taking the time to gather with us and celebrate my grandmother's life, the lasting impact that she made on the hearts of her daughters and their families, and the blessing she was to the community that she loyally and selflessly served. God never meant for us to do this life alone. We were made for relationship. Relationship with Him, as well as relationship with each other. Sometimes it's seasons like this that serve to remind us just how important those relationships are. So this morning, as we mourn and as we celebrate, let's begin by going to Him in prayer. Jesus, we come to you this morning with heavy hearts. We're grieving our loss, and our hope rests in your promises. You've promised us that you will never leave us or forsake us. And you've promised us that you have gone ahead of us to prepare a place in your Father's house. Thank you that my grandmother's story does not end here. Thank you for the promise that she is now in your presence. She is complete, whole, without blemish. She has been made completely pure and righteous through your redeeming work on the cross. We know that for those who accept you as Savior and live in relationship with you, we're promised eternity in your presence. We're promised a new home, a new body, no more tears, illness, or loss. What reassurance it brings to know that Grandma is living in those promises right now. Father, you're the God of opposites. Your ways are higher than what we can understand, and yet we can trust in your goodness. You tell us that those who make themselves first here on earth will be last in your kingdom. And you tell us the only way for a man to be saved is to willingly surrender himself to Christ. And even this morning, in the middle of grieving hearts and falling tears, you've given us a reason to celebrate and rejoice. We're celebrating the life of your faithful servant, and we're rejoicing in knowing that even though we may be hurting, we have not been forsaken. We have not been overlooked. You see our hearts. You care about our loss. So as we enter into this time of remembering and honoring the incredible woman that we are all so blessed to have known, we ask that your presence would remain at the center of this space here this morning. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Ave Maria.
I'm not sure how I'm going to follow those two, but I'll introduce myself. I'm Linda Stallings. I'm Dot Benson's middle daughter. I'm going to be speaking on behalf of my older sister, Babs, and my younger sister, Diana. So, I would like to start off. Most of you know I live in a social circle and I have a stable. And I'm in that stable when I'm not on an airplane. And we always have the radio on. And one day, Herman Cain was talking. And I don't even remember what it was about. But he was talking about, he mentioned about your grave marker. What was the most important thing on your grave marker? He said, it has your name, the year you were born, a hyphen, and the year you died. And he left a little pause there, and I thought, well, surely it's your name. But actually, it's the hyphen. It's what you did with your life between you were born and when you died. And for Dorothy Culver Benson, I could not stand up here and speak for her about 97 years. I'm only 68, so I can do 68 years of that. Speaking again for my sisters and Diana. It's me talking. My mother, she was a daughter, a sister, a wife, a mother, a grandmother, and a great-grandmother. She was always a volunteer, and she touched so many lives. She volunteered for everything. When Sandy Springs still had a red clay road, and there was a lot of shanties where these big houses stand, she would take us with her to deliver food to the needy families. And she was always doing something like that, volunteering in her church. So on behalf of the three of us, first of all, she was our mother. She was our Sunday school teacher. She was our brownie leader. And she was the Girl Scout leader. Now, because we're all 3 years apart, she had to do this every 3 years to keep up with it. So by the time she got to Diana, she knew exactly what to do. Diana didn't have a chance. She would make and not buy any costumes we needed for school or a holiday. She had a sewing machine that was electric, but old as the hills, and it worked. She sewed everything. Mother was also an animal lover, and whatever we drug home, we could keep. Being raised in Sandy Springs, when there was not very many paved roads, no 400, no 285, there's a lot of animals we drug home. for one reason or the other. And they were always welcome at 6821 Peachtree Dunwoody Road. When we were sick, she was our nurse. She was always there for us, always taking care of us. She was also our mentor. We always looked up to her because, as most of you know from the Benson Center, she was usually not wrong. Mother also, she had a big shoulder to cry on. She was always there for us, being a housewife. At 5 o'clock every evening, all 5 of us sat down for dinner at the dining room table, and one of us said a blessing. Mother was also a very good cook. In the late 1960s, she became a single parent. In the 1960s, it was hard for a single woman to get a credit card in her name. I learned from her never to give up. She got that Rich's credit card in her name after changing Rich's policies. As we all know, don't argue with Mother. All I could think of was poor Mr. Rich. She was a grandmother who always had time for her grandkids, and for their birthdays gave them a roll of quarters for a present, equaling $10. As time went on, she was a great grandmother, which she passed the traditions of the quarters to. A lot of our Christmases were at Barbara's house in Jasper, Georgia, and Fred and I would stop and pick her up on the way up in Alpharetta to Jasper. And Mother always had that box of quarters. They were all in little bags, and you almost needed a hand truck to get it out of the house. But she wanted to make sure everybody had those rolls of quarters. Mother always loved a party and the free food that went with it. Whenever there was a party, I found out what food they had there first, and then what the party was about. She never would talk about herself very much, and when they first built the Benson Center, or they were building it, the Atlanta paper called me and said, "We can't get your mother to say anything about herself. What can we put in here?" Well, I didn't know. Fred had said the wrong thing, and I just said, "Well, it's better to do what Mother says. She's always right." And again, the Benson Center's there because she worked so hard to make it right. But during all this time at the Benson Center, she would always pay her $3 for the lunch. They wanted her to have it free. Mother was too proud. She was going to pay for her lunch. Mother was a good-looking woman, inside and out. She turned a few heads in her time. Daddy loved her so much, and they made a handsome couple. The night before Daddy died, at age 46, he had me promise to take care of Mother. Sometimes she could be difficult, go figure. But I think he would be proud of what I did. Mother entrusted me to take care of her final wishes. Today is her last wish for this memorial and burial next to war. I wanted to read this poem called The Chariot by Emily Dickinson. Because I could not stop for death, he kindly stopped me. The carriage held but just ourselves and immortality. We pass the school where children play, their lessons scarcely done. We pass the fields of gazing grain. We pass the setting sun. We pause before a house that seemed a swelling on the ground. The roof was scarcely visible, the cornice but a mound. Since then to centuries, but each feels shortened than the day, I first surmised the horses' heads were toward eternity. Thank you so much for coming today to celebrate Mother's life. I don't even have to say what a great woman she was, or is, and everyone in this room, I'm sure, I don't need to remind that to. So, Russell?
Hello, my name is Russell Sellers, and I'm representing the Dorothy Benson Senior Multipurpose Complex today. And I'm going to offer some words, and there are two things that I have as two sensors in the audience, and they're going to indicate if these are funny or not. My two sensors, you know who you are? Yeah, raise your hand. Okay, those are the two sensors. We're going to see how this goes. Since this is Thanksgiving week, we need to place special emphasis on giving thanks to the Dorothy Benson family. For the many years they shared their matriarch with all of us. We got to know her as leader, activist, advocate, volunteer, trailblazer, and friend. I'm not sure if they had much of a choice, since she cherished her independence, driving from Alpharetta to Sandy Springs in her mid-90s to engage with county, civic, and city leaders to push the concerns of seniors. And of course, she did not want to miss her beloved bocce game, shrimp and grits, and catfish on Friday. My reaction on most days, the Benson spirit hits us as you enter the lobby of Building B. The graceful portrait of Miss Benson greets you with a, how are you going to improve your mind and body today? And what are you going to do to improve this place? My reaction on most days is, great God, I've just stepped into the University of Continuous Learning under the auspices of the United Nations with people from different cultures and backgrounds. I had the good fortune of serving on the Friends of Benson board, where Miss Benson was the chairperson and I am the president. The Friends of Benson is a nonprofit 501c3 that supports the Benson Senior Multipurpose Complex. I like to say that all of us are friends of Benson, with the board members providing governance and structure. Using the professional network connections and career skills, we've been able to manage grants and donations to enhance the Benson complex. For example, you will see TV monitors, laptop computers, art supplies, high-speed Wi-Fi, foot clinics, adult swim classes, outstanding special events like dancing, which you can be part of a party, aquabikes, grants, other grants, and official agreements that are handled by the board. Who cannot forget the recognition of being the older American of Georgia in 2016, if you've seen some of the photos. And the most beautiful in Sandy Springs, where I served as her unofficial campaign manager. How did that happen? I think Ms. Benson would like to give you a homework assignment, and I want to share some tips on what I think Ms. Benson would want us to do. Get involved with issues that affect the seniors in your community. The top issues include affordable housing, transportation to the center and doctor's appointments, nutrition via Meals on Wheels. Attend at least one Board of Commissioners meeting. Complete the periodic surveys conducted by the county and request to see the results. Share ideas with the local facility manager and Friends of Benson board. Start practicing for the Golden Games. extremely important. We're going to win this year. Support the projects led by the Friends of Benson Board. Support the Council on Aging. If you're not familiar with some of these items, it's very important. Please ask a fellow member at the center that sit at table 8, table 15, and table 32 during the lunch hour. Very important. You have to figure that one out. As individuals join the Benson Center, share something about yourself, and if possible, share a meal with them in the dining hall. That is, if your reserved table has room for a guest. Another key secret. Ms. Benson would expect us to continue her legacy by serving as a beta site or pilot for new ideas. I recall when we tested the concept of using Uber to transport participants. Ms. Benson was one of the first to take an Uber ride and later spent time being interviewed by Uber representatives who flew in from San Francisco to get her input as part of their assessment of our program. She also saw the value of taking Uber to meetings downtown, like to the Atlanta Regional Commission, instead of scheduling a 12-passenger bus to take one person. I was fortunate to accompany her on the Uber rides, which she thoroughly enjoyed. The Benson Senior Multipurpose Complex has been the best kept secret in Sandy Springs. A sprawling facility with a very warm swimming pool, fully equipped gym, terrific art, computer, and fitness classes, bocce courts, and access to tennis courts. Then we ran into a problem. Someone decided to invite their friends to the Benson Center, who told another friend, who told the Silver Sneakers group, who told the newspapers, and now the television stations. Now we're seeing a lot of new faces that are taking my parking space. Oh well, I do not mind sharing, which I learned about it in elementary school. When I was in elementary school, there was no kindergarten back in the day. I refer to myself as a Benson acorn. That is a Benson acorn. One who fell from the mighty Benson oak and tried now to honor the oak by learning how to navigate the political environment at the Gold Dome, Fulton County Board of Commissioners, Atlanta Regional Commission, City of Sandy Springs Civic Roundtable, and the business and corporate community. There are many Benson acorns that have fallen from the mother oak that will soon find yourself saying, that Dot Benson introduced me to this person, and I know what she would want me to do in this situation. Hopefully we paid attention and would step up and use our talent and make a difference. You may not get a complex named after you, but there will be a reward. Stay tuned for the announcement of a celebration of life, Western-style themed event. Get your cowboy boots ready and your hats, and a potential bocce tournament. Then some participants versus the elected officials in Fulton County. Our 20th anniversary celebration next year is going to be fantastic. I leave you with the following thought, that Dot Benson was contagious. If she can accomplish so many things in life, I can catch the contagion and work on at least one of her initiatives to help seniors. And finally, I say, Benson strong, and peace be with you.
I want to thank everybody for coming today. Thank you, Lynn. My name is Andrew Bird. I'm Dorothy's grandson, one of her grandchildren. And I want to treat today as a celebration. I celebrate 97 years of her life, although I'm sure there's nobody in here that was here 97 years ago. Is there? A lot of people there's people that call her Dorothy, there's people that call her Dot, some call her Mother, some even call her their friend, her friend. I call her Grandma. I I want everybody in this room to raise their hands if Grandma affected your life at any point in the last 97 years. That is a testimony in itself alone. On June 23rd, 1921, there was a great event that happened. Dorothy Benson was born. She met her husband Warren in the 40s, and she had 3 beautiful daughters. Warren was in the Navy. That took him to San Diego. Grandma actually worked at the phone company in San Diego while Warren was in the Navy. When I say worked at the phone company, for anybody that doesn't remember, that's the plugs. That's not the cordless devices. She moved back to Miami, and then surprisingly, Warren was in the cattle business. Eventually, Warren became the president of the Georgia Cattlemen's Association, so they moved from Miami to Sandy Springs. I remember going through an old desk at Grandma's house on Peach Street, Dunwoody Road. And as I was going through the desk, I found a placard that said, Warren Benson, President. You know, to an 8-year-old, that means he was president. So I went to school and told my teacher that my grandfather was President of the United States. And she asked me what his name was. I said, Warren Benson. And she said, I think you're mistaken. We never had a president named Warren Benson. And I had to think really quick, and I said, I guess they kept his presidency a secret. I never knew that was a Georgia Cattleman's flag. In 1968, Grandma's life would change forever. God called Warren home early. Grandma was left to raise 3 daughters. It would have been different if it was 3 sons, but it was 3 daughters. I had 1 daughter and 1 son. Grandma had the challenge of 3. Her daughters were a member of the Pony Club. They were a member of the Scouts. They were a member of the Benson family, which is the most prideful of all. Grandma was actually instrumental in bringing the Pony Club to Atlanta in 1954. She was also a member of the 1996 Olympic Committee. She was a scout leader, as I previously said, and her biggest accomplishment in my eyes, I thought, was the Dorothy C. Benson Multi-Purpose Complex. Did you know that she walked 3 miles a day? Did you know that she did water aerobics? I see many heads shaking back here because y'all were in the pool with her when she was doing the aerobics. And she did this when she was in her 80s and in her 90s. I'm in my 40s, and I find it hard to walk 3 miles. But I remember she did it daily. I was at the senior center one day to take her to lunch, and I was in the lobby waiting for her to finish her aerobics class. When I say I was at the senior center one day, we're talking only 7 or 8 years ago. I was in the lobby admiring an artist's rendition of a painting that had been painted of her with her horse, Lil. The painting, if I'm not mistaken, was probably from a photo in the 60s or 70s. A man walks into the center and sees me staring, and he walks up, and he was obviously there to pick up his mother or grandmother and take her to lunch as well. And he says, who are you looking at? I said, well, that's the founder, one of the people that were instrumental in this center even being here. And he said, when did she pass? Everybody assumes if your picture's on the wall, you've already passed. And I said, sir, not only did she not pass, this is her coming right here if you would like to hear. The biggest mistake you could ever tell Grandma was, I can't do something. She would say, why not? Why can't you do it? And then you would proceed to try to convince her of why you couldn't do it. And by the time you left that conversation, you realized anything is possible with God and with the right determination. And that's 2 things Grandma had that were part of her successes. Grandma was very strong-willed, and everybody in here knew that. When I went to Guy Webb Elementary School, There was a rule, if the principal came in and turned the lights off at lunch, you were to be quiet. Talking got too loud, the lights would go off. Grandma came to eat lunch with me one day, and the lights went off in the middle of our conversation. She said, "Why did you turn off the lights?" I said, "Shh, you're not allowed to talk when the lights are off." She said, "That's ridiculous," and she went and turned the lights back on and finished our conversation. I didn't know whether to be proud or embarrassed. I had the privilege of taking Grandma Chick-fil-A minis every morning for months. That was one of her requests when she was at the Bryan Center for Rehabilitation. And I'm not endorsing Chick-fil-A, but she liked Chick-fil-A minis. We had many conversations. When I would go at 6 in the morning, not many people were active at that time of the morning, so we got to talk a lot. It was some valued time I will never forget. I got to ask her some questions. Some of the questions she answered, some of them she would not answer. She had her own reasons. One of the questions I asked is, do you have any regrets in your 97 years? I would like to know what a 97-year-old woman regrets. And she said, absolutely no regrets. I use my past and learn from it to make my future better. You know, I'm 48, and sometimes you might use the term, I regret. But then I think of her being 97 and having no regrets. I also asked her what her biggest accomplishment was. Is it the Senior Center? Is it the 96th Olympic Committee? And I continue to ask her, is it this? Is it this? And she opened her mouth and was about to speak, and I'm thinking, here it goes. I'm about to hear her biggest accomplishment. And she said, if you'll be quiet a minute, I'll tell you. And I'm going to use her words verbatim, what she told me her biggest accomplishment was in 97 years, and she said, my daughters. That was her biggest accomplishment, was her daughters. She loved you very much. She told me that more than once. Her action showed it. You see, it's not important. When somebody asks me, how did your grandmother die? I just tell them it's not important how she died. It's important how she lived. She had no regrets. She was alive and she lived. She never took no for an answer. And she believed that one person could truly make a difference. She proved it many times over in 97 years. I'm going to leave you with one quote that I'm sure every one of you have heard at some time or another, that I heard many times. During my struggles in life, during her daughters having struggles, I'm sure they heard it also. And I leave you with these words that she told me not more than a month ago. Never, ever, ever give up.
Good morning. My name is Bob Ellis, and I'm the Vice Chair of the Fulton County Commission, and my commission district is Commission District 2, and you probably don't care where District 2 is, but I want to tell you that there was some divine political gerrymandering that went on when that district that was created a few years ago, because at the very southernmost tip of it, it encompassed the Dorothy C. Benson Centers, multi-purpose senior center. And I'm honored and humbled today to stand before you as a representative of Fulton County government and all of the citizens of Fulton County to pay tribute to the impactful and beautiful life of Miss Dorothy C. Benson. Remarks from Brandon and Linda and Russell and Andrew. Beautiful remarks. And Andrew,